Давай, все наши тут.
А тут я вам скажу, да. Наверное, тут кого-то замуровали. Последние кадры.
And you're responsible for everybody we lose. Because when I see you, then I know the group is complete.
Are you going to lose somebody?
I can lose 10%. So that's 1.5. Now be sure to stay together. No walk away. Here in the end, it's an easy job. You know when people walk too slow, just put the lamp on their legs and they will run like crazy. You have the most difficult job because you're in the middle of the group. And it's always difficult to find the middle. You know, the beginning and the end is easy, but the middle is a bit more complicated. You're the first one up front. You decide where to go. Yeah, good job. One more thing with the light. My colleague hasn't moved yet. Be careful. Be careful with the light. You feel it is warm. If you put it on your leg or on your neighbor's leg, you will hear it.
Я кому-нибудь подсуну. Кто отставали?
Игорь, ну ты давай тогда.
Я посрединке. Она сказала посрединке.
Оставь надежду всяк сюда входящий.
Все организовано. Заходите, за нами закрываем.
На уровне риза что-нибудь наверное,
Все.
So I'm not going to stop here and talk here because it's so small and new and modern, so we go further a bit.
черепа. Формированные.
Тут убирают. Да.
Добрые монахи отдыхали.
Делали жертвоприношения.
Существовали в эпоху человеческих жертвоприношений. Вот один уже написал. Я здесь был.
Был такого-то.
1500.
Володь, уточни, она дорогу так хорошо знает?
А тем пошли другим путем.
So by the way, is English your favorite choice, or do you like German? No.
Maybe Russian.
English prefer. Yeah, not yet. So for everybody who's carrying the light, you can put the light on the ground now. It's easier when we're standing. Be sure always put the handle down. Put it down. You start
Вниз,
well.
вниз, Володь, ручку вниз.
You know why? I barbecued yesterday. You know, the hot part of the barbecue is below and the meat is above, and the lamp is just the same. If you leave the handle up, then it gets really hot. If you forget it, just ask somebody else. Could you please take the light? Okay. So welcome now in the limestone caves. We call this caves, and we call it limestone, or in Dutch we say mergel, in German as well, mergel. It's a very soft stone, and that's why we have those caves here. Have you touched the stone yet? Don't hesitate. You can touch it. You can feel how soft the stone is. And because the stone is so soft here inside, what the people did was coming here with tools like saws and hammers and chisels. And they took away the stone. Not to make galleries, but because outside, in the sun and in the weather, the stone gets harder. So from this pretty soft stone that's easy to take out, outside you have strong stone to build houses with. So that's why they've been working here. Every gallery we are walking through has been man-made. So people say it's a cave, but it's not really a cave. I'm pretty sure in Poland there are real caves. Yeah, you also, where do you come from, by the way?
From Russia.
Russia, okay. I'm sure there's caves in Russia. I'm really sure there's caves. But there's also comparable stuff like this. It's a mine. I officially should call this a mine because it's man-made. A cave is made by nature. And it's been made from 1229. That's the time when they started. So about 800 years ago. Why so long ago? In 1229, the first city wall was built. A wall around your town, and also stone houses in the town. That's the time when they needed lots of stones for building. And that's when they started. But they started very small. They had small galleries about their size, 170 high, 60, 80 centimeters wide. And they needed more stone, so they made the galleries wider, and they made the galleries deeper. So in the beginning, very small galleries, and then was growing and growing. And they worked here for 700 years. So 700 years, only men, women or children never worked here. It was too hard a job. And they made all these galleries in 700 years. And why do you think they stopped? Why don't they work? There's still stone here.
Do you prefer concrete?
Yeah, there's concrete exactly since 1850. There's concrete that's used a lot, but concrete is more expensive. This one was cheaper, but if you go on working, you make the galleries wider, and you know what this is? This is a column supporting the ceiling. And if you make the columns too small, the ceiling is not supported, and everything comes down. So because of this, the chance of collapse, galleries might collapse, they stopped working here. And you have to imagine, in those 700 years, the limestone workers, the block breakers as we call them, they have made 200 kilometers of galleries. So I'm not just here with you for fun. I'm here to show you the code, shortcut. Be sure to stay with me when I speak about losing people. That's not funny, getting someone else. So if you have any questions, if I'm going too fast, or if anything you don't understand a word or anything, ask, please ask. We have 1 hour and we're a small group, so it's up to you. You decide what we're doing. Wenn Sie irgendwelche Wörter?
What about limestone and the traffic pollution in town?
Yeah, if you look around in town, you see lots of limestone houses, but it doesn't look like stone in here. Because when the stone is getting outside, it's drying, like a sponge, sponge. It dries and gets a bit harder, but also inside of this stone, there's lots of minerals and crystals, and they come to the outside part of the stone, and they make the stone harder. We call it a crystal layer, because if you go to the town and you see a limestone house, carefully, but you can touch it, and then you feel that it's harder. And what you see also is that the stone looks grayish outside, but that's because of the crystal layer. The stone gets attacked more by outside conditions. It's calcium, so if you have acid rain and stuff like this, that's a bit of a problem. So houses have to be renewed. When you go by boat, you pass by the house of André Rieu. Maybe you've heard of him before. He's a famous violin player. There he's playing in Australia and America. He's pretty rich, and he just had his limestone house renewed. And I don't want to know what it cost, because nowadays, in former days, it was cheap stone. Lots of workers were here, just getting out the stones and selling it. Nowadays, there is one limestone cave close to Falkenburg. If you go further in direction Germany, there's one limestone cave where they're still taking out the limestone for restoration purposes. But I think I have been living in a limestone house myself for 7 years, and as long as the crystal layer is not perforated, it's not, nothing happens to this, it gets relatively strong. It's not the bigger problem.
Yeah, a lot of.
Here as well. If you look around, there's lots of graffiti on the walls. And it's, pretty old. You have to imagine, in the days when the people worked here, the doors were still open. Everybody could just get in here and do whatever they wanted. Of course, not so many people came in here just for fun, because 500 years ago, you know, the heaven was high above, and this is pretty close to hell. So people who worked here were brave people, and every once in a while they saw white women floating around and stuff like this. But when the people stopped around 1900, then more people from outside got interested in the caves, and more visitors from outside came in here. And that's when the time when also lots of artists from Maastricht and the surrounding area made works of art in here. And this one was really nice, a really good painter. If you look at it, it's a nice painting, but he wasn't really clever. Do you know why? He wrote his name and the date on the right corner here. Bottema, Chief Bottema was his name, and the date 07. So nowadays, lots of people come here and they think, oh, 07, that must be 2007. Was 1907. This one is from 1907. And it's made with charcoal. You know charcoal? Yeah, from in a barbecue, the black...
Charcoal, yes.
Yeah, you know.
Древесный уголь.
So it's maybe you have painted or done something with the charcoal yourself. It's very nice, very easy to paint with it, but when you touch it, you wipe it off. And that's the same here. If you look at the top of the dragon, it's the original one. Nothing has changed because there's no wind or rain in the caves. It just stays on the wall. Only the head has to be restored several times because every once in a while people come in and touch it. What does it feel like? So be very careful with the paintings and in general with the walls, because when you look around, there's also names and inscriptions everywhere around. And some of those are very old. The oldest one we know, the date, is from 1318. So there is no way in preserving those paintings or works of art, because nowadays if you have a paper and you paint with charcoal, you take hairspray, and then you can fix it. But here you can't use hairspray. It just would fall off the wall again. Only thing to do would be glass on the walls. But yeah, where do you put glass and does it look nice? No. We just think our visitors are smart enough not to touch the paintings. Did you take charcoal with you? No. Okay, then you can't write your names on the walls. Yeah. By the way, I said the doors were open. The doors we have now are only 20 years old, about 20 years. So they're not that old. Why only 20 years old? Because from the 1970s onwards, more and more people were coming to Maastricht, people from outside who had no idea how big the cave system is. And they came here and they had like a lighter or something and they went in 100 meters and then they turned around and then they saw side galleries they hadn't seen before. Because when you only look one way, you only see that. And this way it looks totally different. And so the danger of getting lost got bigger, and that's why we made the doors, because we have other things to do than look for people who got lost in the caves. Yep. That's the shapes of the stones. If you look up here, those were the first stones that have been taken out. And it's very smooth on the sides, because the sides were done with a saw. And all those lines here, that one, and that one, that are the back sides of the stone, made with a chisel, etc. So a stone was about 170 high, 60 centimeters deep, and 30 till 40 centimeters wide. Big stones, about my size, but a bit heavier. A stone is 600 kilograms. So you know, those men, they couldn't just carry them out on their back, no, they had horse carriages. So with horse and carriage, kutschen, the stuff was transported outside. How many stones did you think they made a day? How many stones? One? Exactly. They worked with 2 men, so 2 men got 2 stones out. One man, 1 stone a day. Hard work. So just think about this corner. Just the upper part, there's 4 stones in this. 3, 6, 7. 7 times 4 is 28. Only this is 2 weeks. Just the upper part is 2 weeks to take it out. Very, very slowly. So you see how hard they worked. built wall. And there's also an inscription saying something about what the NC, you see ENC, gets destroyed by the IBL. The IBL is the illegal berg, that means mountain walkers. They're the people who love to walk around in the caves, but they're not supposed to walk around. And the NC, the other word that's written down there, is the first Dutch cement factory. There's a big factory behind there that started to work in 1926. And I'll make you a painting, so if you make a circle, if you look at the hill, just on the side, if you're on top of the hill, you're here, and we're in the caves, somewhere here. There's about 30 meters of ceiling above us. That's about 15 meters of limestone still, but that limestone is of poor quality, that's why they didn't take it away. And there's then top layer earth to come in nowadays. So really good. Do you like bats?
Sometimes.
I love them. You know, I think they're very, very smart animals to start with, because they come in here, they have no torch and they have no map. Still, they find a good place to sleep, and they found the exit again after sleeping. And if you look at those animals, most of the bats we have in here are like the size of a matchbox, only that size. Yeah, with the wings spread, they're a bit bigger. But a bat so small eats 1 kilogram of mosquitoes during one summer. So I love them. Great animals. So let's go on. I just destroy my painting a bit, and then we go this way. Here, can you on the wall? No?
Is it the English?
Lots of people think that this is the queen, but no, this was the queen. This is the queen nowadays, Beatrix. Yeah, she was a child when this picture was, when this painting was made. It was made somewhere in 1948, and then she was pretty young. But the one above, she's called Wilhelmina. She was queen 100 years ago, and she also visited the caves. In 1895, she was here in the caves visiting it, just like you. She came with a boat, and she was writing her name on the wall as well. And every once in a while, people want to see this inscription, but unfortunately, this inscription was digged away by the factory. So we only have a picture of a photograph of this inscription. And she was not the only famous person that visited the caves. Peter the Great, Tsar Peter the Great, was also here once. I don't know whether he wrote his name on the walls. We don't have any source of that. But another guy who wrote his name on the wall is Napoleon. You've heard of him before? People think people think that his inscription, he also wrote on the wall his name. His inscription might be somewhere low because he was a small guy, you know. But his inscription was relatively high up. You know why? The galleries are so big. He was on his horse. He was going horseback riding to the cave, so his inscription must be somewhere here. Again, not visible anymore because of the factory. It's really a shame. A bit too young, all of us. Because this one was made black first. Everything was black, and then the artist carved away the light parts. If you look on the wall here, you see the dates. 1943. You might think people of Maastricht must have something else to do during Second World War. But Mr. Harry Koenen was working really hard here in this cave system. What did he do? He prepared the cave system for people to hide in. Yes, because in Maastricht there were the people of Maastricht and the Nazis, and it wasn't nice, but okay, they had arranged. But towards the end of the war, they heard the Americans would come free them. And that's the time when they were getting afraid, because, you know, getting freed, it's not the best part. But they thought, okay, what can we do? We can just wait until the war is over, or we go hide somewhere. And of course, this cave system is perfect for hiding. Not really hiding, evacuation. The Nazis knew about it. I don't know whether the Americans knew about it, but they would be glad to have the people in the caves. It's so big Lots of galleries for people to go in and live here. But would you want to live in the caves?
No.
Why not? It's dark, eh? It's cold. With your open shoes, it's really cold, I guess. It's cold, it's humid down here as well. You know, if you're not prepared, you die in this cave system in only 5 days. It sounds strange. Even if you take food with you, 5 days, then it's over. You know why?
Why?
The humidity, the water in the air gets in your clothes, and then the temperature of 10 degrees is getting really, 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 really dangerous. So you die here because of the cold. So people wanted to live here for 2 or 3 months. They just did not come in here and then waited until they died. No, what they did first was electricity in the bigger galleries. So there was light here. There were also speakers to get messages around, like a radio station we had. Then they made wells for water, 3 big wells where they're pumping up water for drinking and washing. There was a bakery with 5 ovens, so they could bake 8,000 breads a day. If you eat and you drink, yes, there were toilets, but don't think there were toilets where you could flush. It's the easiest possible toilet you can imagine. And they had kind of a hospital, but what they didn't make, or what they did not make, was heating. They said, if you get cold, make a fire. Yeah, there's only stone around you, so fire is not a big problem. But Maastricht in those days had 40,000 inhabitants. Imagine, everybody comes here, everybody makes a fire, and everybody still wants to breathe. That would be a big problem. So what they had was big propellers. Those propellers would blow fresh air into the caves so that the old air gets pushed out, and that would be enough. But the propellers weren't installed, and the Americans were here, and Maastricht was free. Maastricht was really lucky. Maastricht wasn't really important, and you have the German city Aachen very close, and Aachen was very important for the Nazis, so the Nazis didn't really fight above Maastricht. They went to Aachen and protected Aachen. And you can see if you visit Aachen, there's lots of new buildings there. And Maastricht, there was no fight going on. So we were lucky. Only 14 days it took for Maastricht to be freed in September 44. So this whole evacuation plan wasn't necessary. Only 2,000 people who were really afraid, people who lived close to the bridges, or elderly people who were sick, they went into the caves. And they lived here for 14 days. And they left the cave with 2001. So there was 1 person more coming out of the cave. Because when she went in, there was a lady with a very, very big belly. Of course, that's the time when you go hiding, when you're about to give birth. And the baby was born in the bakery, where it's nice and warm and we can have hot water. And he was celebrating his 50th birthday here in the caves. So he survived everything nice and well. So, by the way, we're going now through the so-called flower streets, and it's one of the biggest galleries in the cave. If you look here, it's a very nice, big gallery. You know why it is so big?
Why?
Because the stone quality is good.
Yeah.
At the moment you have good stone, you make a big gallery. But the funny thing, if you look now here, the gallery ends. You know what that means? Stone quality gets bad. It's one of the most modern paintings in the cave. So, it's just made in connection with the factory, the NC I've been telling you about, the cement factory, because there's, you see here, there's a crack going through, and he's just helping, supporting the caves not to collapse. By the way, I told you that because of the NC, galleries disappeared. Not only regular galleries disappeared, but also an underground connection between the Netherlands and Belgium disappeared because of the NC. Because this hill is partly in Belgium and partly in Holland. So before the NC worked, you could go through the cave system and cross the border. And it was possible until 1956. So can you imagine, during World War I and World War II, people were going through the caves with butter, sugar, tobacco, stuff like this. Also films, like mini film and stuff like this. And also people. Jewish families or British or American soldiers that were crushed above the Netherlands were smuggled through the cave system. What it was, the Nazis knew about this underground connection. But you can imagine, the Nazis didn't really know how to walk around in here. And if you don't know this, you have to walk with a big light. big lights and a uniform or being known as a Nazi is pretty dangerous in here. Because when I'm on my own, I don't use this light. I have a small light. That's enough for me. And so the people of the resistance, they would walk with small lights, maybe with weapons, and then you were very, 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 very easy target for the resistance. The only dangerous part when you were smuggling were the entrances. And nowadays we have the northern system, there's an entrance, we have this entrance here at Sonneberg, and there's still galleries in Belgium, so there's some entrances, but in former days there used to be like 20 entrances. So you had to take a look, okay, is somebody checking this entrance? No, then I used another one. So that was easier in those days. Still, you had to know how to get through here. So I'm not going to stop here for too long. Just a short, quick stop and a walk through. This is the church from the Second World War. Of course, you had to have some God with you. My favorite painting is right here. It's a nice icon of Maria and Jesus. And if we go through the church, you will see on the right-hand side especially the Stations of the Cross. Those Stations of the Cross were made in the time when the people were hiding here, because you see, if you look on the other side, there's empty rooms. They're not yet filled. The war was too quick, or the painter was too slow, so they hadn't had the time to finish it. But here's very nice very nice paintings here.
О, кто там?
They're leaving the instructions behind.
Слабое звено.
Да, можно было их оставить.
Прикольно от поздно приходящих в гости.
So, we're complete. We don't miss anybody, that's the most important thing. If we miss anybody, that's a problem. Just before we take a look for the exit, I want to show you this painting. It's an old painting again. If you look at the animals, you can tell. Nowadays we think dinosaurs look a bit different, at least I think. The interesting part is the lower part, that one here. Because that's Maastricht 75 million years ago. So very long ago, scientists say here was an ocean. There were animals living here. Animals died in this ocean, of course, and what happened? Everything was left were eventually the bones. Bones are calcium, and this limestone, this mergel around us, is 98% calcium. So we just got the question, are there any fossils in here? We are surrounded by them. But most of them, of course, are destroyed. Most of them by the pressure and the ocean are destroyed. But if you look around hip level, your waist, if you touch the wall there, you will feel sharp edges, here especially. If you look here, right here, for example, there's sea urchin. You know what a sea urchin is? Seeigel, German. Black animals with lots of black stings in the water. And that's what left of them. And in 1770, some workers here were sawing and working, and they found a jaw. But this jaw wasn't that size. The jaw was 1.5 meters long. They had no idea what they had found. They thought it was a monster. Yeah, they found a monster, of course. We're so close to hell, so it must be a monster. They made an exhibition in Maastricht, but in 1794, so only 24 years later, Maastricht got visitors. The French were here, not visiting, but attacking and conquering Maastricht. So when the French were the owners of Maastricht, they said, Maastricht is ours, the jaw is ours as well. You know what the people of Maastricht said? No way. We are keeping this jaw. And so they had this jaw hidden somewhere in a basement, really well hidden. The French couldn't find it. The French are really clever. They said, we can't find the jaw. You know what we do? We trade it. They said, whoever brings us this jaw gets 600 bottles of good red French wine. So what would you do? Now, let's say, what do you think the people of Maastricht did? In 3 days, this jaw was on its way to Paris. So they were really quick to say, give us the wine. So, and the jaw is still in Paris. And I have to tell you, don't tell my colleagues. Psst, don't take this. I have to say, I'm glad this jaw has ended up in Paris. Because in Paris there was a university, scientists, they did research and they said, no, it's not a monster, it's not a walrus, it's a dinosaur. Some kind of dinosaur means lizard in Latin, so they said it's a giant lizard, and as it was found close to the river Maas, they called it the Mosasaurus, so the Maas lizard, you could translate it. The Mosasaurus was found later on as well. For example, in New York, in the Nature History Museum, there's one. Maybe even in Russia or in Poland, there were Mosasauruses found. I assume there were. In Africa, they were found. And the newest one, the latest one, was found here in Maastrihт in 1998. In the factory, the cement factory, they found an almost complete skeleton from a Mosasaurus. And we're going to keep this one, so don't come here with vodka. I like vodka a lot. No, we're not going to trade this.